This is my Hijet. It's a 2002 1.3 Daihatsu Hijet with a Romahome body on it. Now, this is where the gas cylinder's kept. Next to it is the mains hook-up connection. Underneath, a spare wheel. I don't know if you can see that, probably can. That's drinking water goes in there. I've done a few things to the inside. I added a radio, etc., and put these motorbike scooter mirrors on, and made up these spacer things, but they're not very good because they're only ply and they're starting to expand a bit in where they've got wet. Tyre pressures, 54 psi for the rear loaded, so that's what I do the rear at, and 29 for the front. This under here, that's the brake fluid reservoir. Let's have a look. That's alright, plenty in there. Now I've added some electrical bits and pieces to it. That box there, I've added that and stuck it to the bottom of the ashtray with double-sided tape, that thick stuff. And then I added this. I took the original USB connector out and put these two. These are 2.1 amps each output, and these two fuses here, one of them is, if I connect it to this particular one, it goes off when I turn off the ignition. Connect it to the other one and it's on all the time. Dash cam. There's a clock up there that I added. I had to put the speakers in. The holes are already in the door for the speakers, and they're just sort of punched out on the inside of the door pad, so it's not too difficult to put speakers in. Radio is pretty useless without an aerial. You can't put an aerial. You can't put the aerial where it's supposed to go, which is just there, because well, this is in the way. So I tried one of those aerials that stick on the top of the screen. Absolutely useless. Picked up too much noise from the voltage dropper in the USB thing. If you don't use it, it's alright, but if it's on, it picks up, the radio just picks up the noise from the chopper circuit. So I've had to move the aerial away from anything in here and put it in the back. So what I've done, the aerial, you can see it in the corner there. It runs up there along that bit. I've taken out the window for the cab, so I don't want that in there. I've taken it out for three reasons really, but the aerial goes through there, and I've made a dipole and it runs along that shelf, along the top of that shelf inside there. And that's pretty good at not picking up noise. There's a level down there. Right, that's the front. Round the back here. We have here a cup of coffee. That's on top of the sink. Now that is just let's move it across there. This is a kind of draining board that you can remove, and you can actually put this down. And then you can put that on there. It's better if it's got that drain off bit, that end. Which makes quite a handy draining board. These little tap there, they used to have a micro switch underneath, but that stopped working, so it's got a hefty switch added to it. Someone else put a switch there. I just had to improve it and put a decent switch there. People never do things up to the standard I like, so I had to put a decent switch there. This cupboard, it's meant to be a wardrobe type thing, but it never gets clothes put in it. And it's got toilet rolls in there, a bottle of washing up liquid, some plastic containers for food. Down here, I've made this myself. I made a cutlery drawer. Now that's not square because that's a tapered hole, and I don't know what it was for, but there wasn't anywhere to put cutlery, so I made the drawer, and that keeps it shut, keeps it closed when this is closed. And they're the gas taps, one for the fridge, one for the cooker. Provisions, the good old beans in there, and then space down the bottom for more stuff. Three-way fridge, the usual type of fridge, works perfectly. I made this top, that doubles up as a cutting board. You have to have this one open when you're using the cooker. You have to do that, probably because it'll blister, but I don't usually, well, I never put that on there. But it comes in handy if you're doing some peeling or something. You can just put it there and throw your spuds in it or whatever and peel them. I put a plastic cutting board thing inside it. But the cooker works fine. It's got a grill. I've got a toaster that, you know, a toasting, I don't know what you call it, a grill that fits in there. I suppose you call it a grill. And then a little cupboard up the top there. That just has sort of general junk in it. Some cooking utensils that are too big to go in any other drawers, like wooden spoons and potato masher and I don't know what, headache tablets, some soap, lighter, that needs sorting out anyway. Now that, for the outside temperature on this, the sensor runs down this is the wire for it here. It runs down there and it goes to a big bolt and metal plate which is connecting the body to the outside. I've super glued it to that. It goes through from the outside to the inside the body, so the cool temperature outside is transmitted through the big bolt to the sensor. Didn't want to make any extra holes in this. Up there, that light there contains, it was a fluorescent tube type light with 2 tubes in it. It's now got 3 strips of bright LEDs in there. Which is enough, it's good enough. And these ones here, these are warm white LEDs, they're for the bed. You know, if you're reading in bed or something, you just reach up and switch them on. These have got a blind which you can pull across. This bit here, that just hooks in there, cuts out all the light. I've got a Porta Potti there. I made that box for it. The reason I made the box is because the actual Porta Potti is a bit low. So I made that box. When you turn it over, you put the toilet on top of it, and this is a non-slip thing that you just put there because I varnished it and it became a bit slippery. So you put that non-slip on the box, put the toilet on top, and it's roughly the same height as a standard household toilet then. Never used it though, but I expect there'll be a time when I have to, or we have to. Up here, this is where all the bedding, the water tanks, tables, chairs, all that sort of stuff all goes up there. In here, that's the aerial. There's all sorts of things go in there for charging things up. These hooks, they're handy. Tea towels go on them. Pretty good they are. Now, there's plenty of storage space in here. Easily enough storage space. leisure battery there, and that's the charger which operates when the mains connection is fitted, and that's the there's the mains cut out if there's a fault. There's that master switch for it. All that brown on there is actually where water has run down from the window frame. The window frame on this side was absolutely rotten. All the wood between the two fiberglass, the outside and the inside, it had all rotted away, and it had gone sort of all soaking wet, and it was rotten. And these screws here, and these, they just more or less pulled out. So I ended up digging out all the wood that was in there, all the rotten wood, and made a new frame and glassed it in. I forget what the stuff was I used, but it stuck it in well. And the reason it went rotten was because outside, just above the window, there's a strip which the window pivots on. It also holds the window in place. And the strip has got screws along the top holding it in. They go through the fiberglass into a piece of wood which just happened to be marine ply. When the screws had got wet, over the years they'd rusted, and eventually there was virtually nothing left of the screws, and the wet had got in where they'd rotted away, and it had made bigger holes. The wet got into the wood, soaked into the wood, and gradually worked its way through the wood, rotting it away as it went over the years, and started to come out at the bottom of the frame and run down the wall inside these boxes inside here. Wasn't a lot, just a little bit, just enough to make the bloody floor wet and stain it. That's completely fixed now though. I'll probably, I don't know, I might get round to recovering that if I can find some of this material. Now this side has got the water tank in it, drinking water there. And I'll show you what else when I go away. I'll show you what goes in there where we put all our stuff. Great big space there. This window had leaks as well, but it was nowhere near as bad as the other side. So what I did on this one, I just took the screws out, and they were on their way out as well. They were rusting away. So I took them out and filled the holes in. Most of them were okay, but the ones that felt like they might have rotted away, I filled them in, and all these screws here, they were still going into good wood, so there wasn't much of a problem there, but it was just along the top on the other outside there. And took the screws out and threw them away, and I put stainless steel ones in. And this has been out in real stormy, real heavy rain, and I've also jet washed all round these vents up here, round the windows. Used a jet spray for that to see if any leaks occurred, and they didn't. Did have a leak up there, did have a leak on there, quite a bad one. In a storm about a year ago. It's made some slight staining. You can just about see it, I think. But I've taken all this out. Took the whole lot out, and the other one. That one had a tiny leak, nowhere near as bad, but I had to take them out and seal them again. Cleaned all the old sealer off, sealed them up, and they've been good since then. I think that's about everything for inside. There's more space there, tons of room. This one here, we usually put the cooking utensils and plates and things in there, and maybe a bag of spuds and some vegetables or whatever. I have to do all the cooking in here because Tricia doesn't like using gas. Silly cow. Don't know why she doesn't like using gas. It's just an excuse, I reckon. And there's my old retro styled wireless set. Don't know, we might take that with us. It's a bit big, but we might take it. Might take a smaller one. Don't know yet. Depends. On the back, on the back here, we usually have an awning with a table in it. I've got a table that I fit in here. Yeah, I was going to tell you about this window, why I took it out. Well, the first reason was to get this aerial to come through without making any holes in anything. The second reason was so we could chuck clothes and things through there, so they didn't clutter up in here. And the other reason was there's no table in here, and what I've done, I've made a table. Well, I actually bought a table and it was too bloody big. It was too wide and we couldn't sit either side of it. And it also had legs which were a bit wide. You had a job to get your feet round to move along. So what I did, I got an old piece of a headboard off a double bed and cut it down to the right length and put some pieces of aluminium U section on the end of it with rubber inserts, and that hooks over this bit here, just hooks over that, and then the other end has got this leg, just screws on, and that's adjustable height there, and that's just a little bit adjust, and there it is there. That's the table. That's where you screw the leg on, and that table is just the right size. And for outside in the awning, we've got a couple of fold-up aluminium chairs with green and white striped material on them, and yet another table, because the original table that I bought for in here is too high for the chairs, so you couldn't sit there and eat your dinner off the table out in the awning. So I've bought a plastic table which is a dual height one, and that's just the right height for putting your dinner on and eating from out in the awning, or outside if you don't have to have it in the awning. If it's a nice day, you can just have it outside, but the awning is pretty much essential, really. I'd say it was. You know, obviously if you're wild camping you don't want to use an awning, you can't really, but if you're on a site, well, the awning is ideal. It's a drive-away awning, so you can leave it up. It's not difficult to reverse back up to it and hook it all over again. Also, I've got a pop-up toilet tent, but we've taken it with us on the occasions we've been away, but we've never used that. But we might end up going to a site with no facilities. Who knows? The bloody prices of them nowadays. We go to one in Derbyshire, and it's £12 with the electric hookup. Well, I don't think that's too bad. That's a good price to pay, really. It's got showers, toilets. You have to pay 20p for a shower, but 20p is nothing. You get a nice long shower for 20p. Well, it's better than going and paying 20 quid and 25 quid at one of these bloody places that have got amusement arcades and bloody cafes and kids running around. Don't want all that. I mean, they're ridiculous prices. They're getting worse. 25 quid, 30 quid, some of them. You might as well bloody go and pay for a holiday cottage somewhere. Yeah. Well, what more can I say? I don't think there's anything at the moment. I think what I'll do, all the stuff that goes in here, I'll show you what I've got, where it goes, and that'll give you some idea of if you're thinking of doing something similar and you haven't been camping before in a camper van. It might give you an idea of what you need, or even what you don't need. I think everything I take, is more or less essential just to make it comfortable. I'll take, now this van hasn't got a very big petrol tank. I think it does about 120 miles to the tank. I'm not sure, but it doesn't seem like much. So I'll take a spare can of petrol, and it has to be a proper jerry can. You can't take one of them plastic ones because they stink. You can smell petrol. If you've got a properly sealed up metal jerry can, you can't smell that. That's perfect, and that goes under the seat. But you know, the fuel gauge in this is not very accurate. It does work. A lot of them don't even work, but this one works. But when it gets to halfway, you go right round a right hand turn, the empty light flashes on, even though you've still got half a tank of petrol. That seems to be one of the things that happens with these, and the other thing is the sender unit in the tank packs up, but there's no problem with that. And they overheat sometimes, but this one's perfect. You can leave it ticking over all day long, and the temperature gauge climbs. The fan comes on, runs for a little while, temperature gauge drops, fan goes off, and it'll do that all day long, and it'll come on in traffic or whatever. There's no problems with it at all, doesn't lose any water. Right, well, that'll be it.